Hi, this is a video on how to change the strings on your guitar. I have here a nylon string guitar, otherwise known as a Spanish guitar or a classical guitar. It is important to know which guitar you have because the method by which you change the strings will change depending on the guitar. So this method is specific to the nylon string guitar or some Filipino style guitars as well. Okay, there are things here that you will need and some things here that you may not need. I'll do the things that are most important first. Of course, you need a new set of strings. Here are mine. They're expensive, but I recommend that students get something like the Diodario brand, and they come in different types. The Pro Art series is good. EJ45, you don't need the C variant. That's just the type that I use. And on top of that, new strings. You'll also need some method to tune the guitar afterwards. This is a clip-on tuner which clips onto the guitar, and it gives you a readout of the note you're tuning. It's very important to be able to use that. I'll make another video on that later. Another method of tuning is you can use a tuning fork, and you hit this on a solid object that is not the guitar, and it gives you a vibration of A 440 cycles, and that way you can tune your A note and then tune all the other strings to that A that you've just tuned. Another method is to go to a YouTube video. Because on the YouTube videos for tuning they'll play the notes and you can tune up using your ear by playing along. Okay, other things that are not compulsory but are recommended. I have some cleaning liquid here. This is one I use, Music Nomad. It's a little expensive. There are cheaper variants. This is an oil for the actual exposed wood of the fretboard. It is a good idea to use an appropriate oil for lubricating and moisturizing the fretboard because it helps keep the guitar in good condition over time. And this is a polish cleaner all-in-one that I use on the varnish of the body. Just helps get all the dirt and the muck off the guitar, which is also important. You may have an old guitar where there's lots of dirt and junk on the fretboard. In that situation I recommend using tolerable hot water and cleaning it off with that hot water and a cloth. Don't use any chemicals or soaps or detergents. It is tempting to do that. Try and use your elbow grease at first. If that fails, then use just a tiny dash of dishwashing liquid to get into the frets on the sides of the frets and get all the junk off. But try to avoid that by just using hot water and a cloth. So I have two cloths. I have one for the fingerboard, and you can see it's more dirty, and I have one for the body, and I keep them separate because I don't want the junk that's on the fretboard being on the finish of the guitar. So another thing that you may find very useful but it's not compulsory is a peg winder and string clipper. Of course there are other ways to clip the strings, but these devices are excellent if you want to pick one of these up, and it just makes the whole process a lot physically easier in terms of winding the strings back up again and also taking them off. Okay, we'll begin the process. First part of the process is to take all the strings off the guitar first. Some people say don't take all the strings off because it changes the pressure on the guitar. Personally, I haven't had any issues with guitars breaking from doing that or sounding any worse or better. But you basically want to just untune them, slack them off, and see how easy it is using this mechanism. And once it's loosened, you can actually just use the clipper to cut the string, and it's much easier to undo on both sides. Do this for all 6 strings. Now I have all the strings off the guitar. I'm now going to clean the fretboard, and I've got some warm to hot water in my cloth, no detergents. I'm going to start by cleaning around the nut itself. Sometimes the nuts actually come out, so you may want to hold that. Notice how I'm actually trying to get my fingernail up inside the fret here. It's a good idea to clean all the junk that's around the frets themselves and also over top of the frets. And you can go up and down with the frets, and then you can go up and back the neck like that. Notice how it's drying straight away. My guitar fretboard is quite clean because I change my strings every month or two. The older the guitar, most likely the dirtier the fretboard will be. Whilst my guitar's fretboard is drying from the moisture in that previous cleaning of the fretboard, I will clean the body. So I've got my chemical that I use. That's an all-in-one polish. Oh, it's running out. lid off. There we go. Not too much, should spread around pretty good if it's a decent one. And I'm going to move in circles. Like this, just do circles around the body, over the varnish, trying to get on the fretboard itself. Because that's where we're going to put a different chemical, a lubricant moisturiser for the wood will go on the fretboard. So we don't want to have this varnish cleaner on there at all. It's a good idea to try and get in and around the actual bridge, because that'll have lots of dust as well. The saddle, don't lose the saddle if it falls out, keep it in a safe place. Do the sides. Oop. I have grippy, sticky stuff on my guitar. Might use a bit more of that chemical. In the back. Again, moving in small circles, smallish circles. So it's more of a polishing process than anything else. It cleans, but mostly it polishes the varnish. And then up the back of the neck, of course, as well. So I normally just hang it over like this and just very gently up and down with the cleaner. Now mine's actually an exposed wood, so I'll go over that later on with an oil. That'll help keep that exposed wood nice and moisturised. I'm now going to oil my fretboard. This is the fretboard oil I use. It's a bit of a leaky container, but it's a really good product. So I'm just going to squeeze a little dabble of it on each fret. And what I'll do is I'll come back over this with a cloth in a minute and spread it around very gently, so it's not really rubbing in, but just spreading it around, and the wood will actually soak it up at itself. So I'll just leave it sit for a while. And go all the way up. Don't be cheap, especially around here, which is where we play the majority of our notes. Of course we do play up the fretboard, but most of the music we play is actually down in this position, first position. So I'm going to grab my oiling cloth and just very gently spread that oil around without rubbing it into the actual wood. Just let the wood do its job. So if you rub it in, then the cloth's probably going to soak it up more. Now, I don't really want the cloth to have the oil in it, I want the wood to have the oil in it. So this is, I can already smell this lovely oil. You can smell almonds or something like that, some sort of nut. So you may find a good oil yourself, or you may choose that same Music Nomad product. It's up to you. This part is not compulsory, but it's something I like to do to look after guitars for the long haul, because over time the fretboards do dry out. Now I'll just let that sit for a while, probably about 10 minutes, and I'll come back and I'll wipe the excess off with the same cloth on the drier side, just the way there's no excess oil that's going to get on my strings and my fingers later when I'm playing. We're now going to start putting the strings on. Now with the classical guitar, or any type of guitar where the headstock has 3 tuning pegs in line, that's on the other side of the guitar, versus say 6 in line, so you have 2 sets of 3, you want to put the strings on in a particular order because it makes it easier to tie them off later. So you want to go from the first string through to the second, third, and then go and do the 6th string, which is the lowest pitch one, through to A and D, string 5 and 4. This will make your life easier when it comes to tying the string down. Okay, now we're going to begin with the first string of the guitar. I have the end of my string, and my string is going to go over the saddle which sits on this bridge, and it's going to go through a hole that's inside the tie block here. It's going to come out the other side. So I search for that hole with the string, push the string through. Okay, next thing I want to do, is what I do personally, is I'm going to tie a little granny knot in the end of this string, just with the last little section of it. Don't make it too far up the string, just near the end. And what this is going to do, actually I might do a double here if I can, what it's going to do is, it means that if my string tying isn't successful and the string slips out, the string will catch on this knot rather than say flick out and then damage the back wood of the guitar. And yes, it does happen. I've seen it happen on my own guitars. So here it is. I've got a double granny knot on this side now that the string's already through the hole. I'm now going to tie the string off on the block. And how you do that is you take your string and you wrap it around the string itself from this side. So I'm going on the right hand side here, and I'm going to come back around in a loop, and then I'm going to feed this end of the string back through where I came from. Now some people tie off at this point, but that's a little bit weak for the nylon strings. I'm now going to do another lap around that string itself. So it's got a double loop. Now this is really important, this part. It's probably the most important part. I'm going to hold the string down on the back of this tie block here and pull the string taut with my left hand here. And the reason why I want to hold that string down at the back of the tie block is that is where the string actually gets finally caught and held in position. See it tightening up, and there we have it. The string is now on the tie block. You can see it moving slightly as I pull it too. And now it's tied behind there. If you've done it and the string is loose and tied up off the top here, undo it and start again, because you'll have lots of tuning problems, or worse, it may actually just come flying off. I'll demonstrate that again. I'll get my second guitar string for this guitar. This is number 2, so I read the packaging, made sure I used the right string. This says B second. So I feed my string through the hole for the second guitar string, like this. I then come around on the right side of that string, make sure not to catch this first string again, and then I do a loop around itself. Oh, sorry, I forgot. I have to tie this off. I just do this for the trebles myself, and try and keep it now down the end of the string here, so I'm not wasting too much string. There we go. I do a double knot just because I'm pedantic. A single knot will probably do the job, to be honest. Okay, now I take the string and I go down the right hand side of where the string came from, and do a loop underneath here, so it's going to come back. And then I do another loop. It's a bit like watching an aerobatic routine, string flying under things. Now I'm going to hold the string behind the tie block here and pull with my left hand. There we go. You can see it's actually, I'll try and turn this around so you can see it. Hopefully that's in focus. It's actually tied off behind on this side of the block. That means it's going to be secure and stay in tune as I'm tuning and playing the guitar. Okay. And I'll do it for the third string as well. Check my camera position. Sorry, it's moved slightly. Okay, here's my third string. See, it's a lot fatter than the others. So, I take the end of the string, feed it through the hole. Now I'm going to make a granny knot. Now this one is a fat string. I'm just going to use one granny knot, that's fine on this one. And just like I used one granny knot on that string, I'm also going to use just one loop here. Now something I like to do is make a little kink in the string, just bend it, and this becomes that squared off position that sits on the end of the square of the tie block here. Now let's hold it with my right hand, my finger, and I pull with my left hand. And there you can see it's tied off. Okay, now as you're tying these off on the other side of the guitar, you'll notice that these may change position, so you'll just have to monitor it as you're actually winding up your other side of the guitar. Now I'm going to go and do the 6th string, which is the lowest pitch string. So I'm going to skip the 4th and the 5th and begin anew on the 6th string. And this will make it easier for me to tie it off on the other side. You may find this easier to see actually. So, feed it through the hole. It's a fat string, so it can be hard to find. I don't have to tie the bases off like I was doing knots before. Don't have to do that with the bases. They have a nice grip to them. I am going to bring it around like this. This is the same method as the previous strings, but I'm going to make a kink in this one, about 1.5 centimeters back from the end of it. Not too long. So that's about 1.5 centimeters. And I'm going to hold that down behind tie block. This is really important. Again, this is the most important part of attaching your strings to the tie block, is making sure that the string itself is actually locked off on the opposite side of this block. You can see I have it done there. Sweet, that's ready. Cool, and now I'll do the rest of the strings. I now have all 6 strings on the bridge of my guitar tied correctly to the tie block. It's a good idea for beginners to do this method because it makes sure that they put the right string from the right package on the right position down here in this part of the guitar first. Then makes it easy to do other things up the other side rather than doing one string at a time. It also gives them a chance to practice this method itself, which is going to be different to the method we use down the other side. So this helps reinforce their memory of what it actually is like to change the strings on the guitar. Now that we have our strings tied on to the saddle side of the guitar, I'm now going to begin with the bass E string, and I'm going to take this string and then I'm going to tie it to the tuning post down here, which will be the very first post that's closest to the player's head. It's important to get your strings on the correct peg, so the 6th string will be tied to this one, the 5th string, here we go, will be tied to the middle of these 3 sets, and the 4th string will be tied to the last of these 3, and just like that, the E string on the other side will be tied to the first of the 3 on the bottom side here. That's closest to the player's head. The D string, the 2nd, will be tied to the middle point, and the G, which is the 3rd string, will be tied to the last on that bottom side. So it's important to start with each peg that's on this side first and move down like this. So I'm going to do my basses and go 6, 5, 4, then I'll do my trebles and go 1, 2, 3. Okay, beginning with string 6, I'm going to take that string. Don't worry so much about putting it in place on its nut here, we'll come back to that later. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the string and I'm going to not put the string through the hole. Actually, I'm going to put the string above the post here and come around from behind through the hole. So here I am, around the post itself. If I flip the guitar over, you'll probably see this a bit easier. Now I'm going to put this string through that little hole there. Can you see that? So it's going through the back of that hole. Flip it back over. So I have this excess piece of string here, and here's the string I'm trying to pull tighter. Now instead of just tying off at this point like this, I'm actually going to do something that's going to help my tuning. And this is why my tuning is so stable all the time, because I do this method. Okay, now the method is this. I take this excess piece of string and I do a lap or a loop around the string itself. Now I don't tie this off, instead I pull the excess of the string through the hole of the post. And so when I finally tie this off, it's actually going to have very little slack in the string. And this will make my tuning stability very strong. See, now I'm pulling this side, this loose part of the string, I'm pulling this and it's making a little noose for it. I can already feel that's a little bit tight. So now, start winding it up. I'm actually holding pressure on the string at the same time. This is another factor that keeps my tuning nice and stable. I actually hold pressure with my left hand whilst I'm winding this up at the same time. You can switch your hands around and do it whichever way you like. This is just how I'm doing it with the camera on at the moment. So I can feel the tension coming up as I'm winding. So I'm actually just going to come with that tension, just slack it off my hand at the same time. Sorry about the garbage truck. And I can feel that really coming up to pitch now, or up to some form of tension. So at some point I'm actually going to place this on top of its nut. Yeah, it's on the nut. And there we are. We're somewhere around E. I'm going to now just continue, but with the A string. So I've made sure I've grabbed the A string and I put it on this second post. Now remember, I'm not going through the hole. I'm going to go around the post and then come through the hole from behind. Can be a little bit of a guessing game. I might just flip it over, that way you guys can see this too. So hopefully you can see the hole. And I was going to put it through that hole. Hang on. See how it's through the hole? Now I'll flip it back around. And I'm going to pull that string excess, do a loop. Oops, wrong way around. I like to face the loop. Lap outside and back in. That's how I like to do it. You can do whichever way you like. So I pull the excess, so I'm pulling the string through the hole, getting this excess out of the string as much as possible before I tie off that noose. And this does wonders for my tuning. There we go. Now I hold tension on the string. And I'm winding it up. Now it's starting to get quite tense, so I'm actually going to place the string inside its nut position, but still keep the tension in my hand. This is going to help my tuning a lot. So less tuning sounds good to me, and also less time getting the string ready to play. With nylon string guitars, typically the tuning will actually take about a week to settle, especially when it's put on badly. Tuning up a guitar for the first time, if you're a beginner, can be really daunting. Let me help take some of the mystery out of it. So I put my E string on the guitar and I'll play a note. We know this is supposed to be the E, but let's see what note the tuner tells me it is. Ooh, it's a B. Now how do you know which B it is? Do you need to go up or do you need to go down? Well, you have to exercise some of your own judgment. So this note here, this string itself actually feels really loose and the note sounds really low. The guitar normally sounds a bit higher in pitch than that, so I think this is the B that's below the E that it's supposed to be. So I'm going to play this note and then tune the string up with my tuning mechanism on. You can see it's climbing up to C, C sharp, D, D sharp, see a little dot there means D sharp. So I'm actually close to E now. There we go, I'm in the E territory. Sorry, my tuner doesn't like the E string so much. There we go. So this is the note E, and it feels, yeah, it feels about the right tension. So this must be the E. Let's try the next string, the A string. That says G. Now, is it the G above or below? It actually feels like it's pretty close to the right tension. And it sounds close. So I think maybe this is the G that's just below it, because it's only a tone below, which is 2 semitones. 2 frets if you like. G sharp, coming up. Ah, there we go. I'm now tuned to A. So I have the E and the A string, string 6 and 5 in tune. That sounds about right. 5th fret. Yeah, they're both making an A. Great. So I'll just repeat this process for all my strings. Just feel whether it feels slack, needs to come up, or if it sounds too low or flubby, it needs to come up. It's important not to go too high though. Okay, now we're going to check the tuning stability of the guitar and then stretch the notes out. Now, just a minute ago, I tuned each of these strings 2 times each. Let's see if they've actually held their tuning. E. E has. A. Oh, a little bit flat. We're close. D. Oh, it's dropped a bit. G. Whoa, G is all the way down at F sharp. So let's bring that up. There we go. B. That's down at A sharp. Ooh, the E is really bad. That's D sharp. Okay, so now they're in tune again, but they're going to play this game for about something between a day and a week, depending on how well you strung the strings up. So one thing you can do to help speed this process up is you can stretch the strings. So what I do when I stretch the strings is I grab the middle point in my string and I give it a very gentle tug like this. Just to pull on that tension. It helps just to slacken and then increase the pressure, bring it up and down in pressure, and that gets a lot of the slack out of the tying points, whether it's at the saddle down here or if it's at the headstock up here. You see that E note has dropped down slightly, so I have got some of the slack out of the string. You'll find that the treble strings are actually the worst offenders, and again it's mostly or in part because they're slippery string. Pull on the D string. Now the G. G's already slipped down, so bring that back up. Bit of a gentle tug, maybe about 10 seconds each. There we go. So I'll repeat this process for each of the strings. And you'll find that the treble strings are the ones which need the most tuning when you first put them on. In fact, the treble strings are the strings that need the most tuning full stop over the whole life of the string, but they do get better within a week. They start behaving more like the basses. Okay, that B's in tune. Now the top E string. Okay, so I'll probably repeat this process another 2 times, so 3 times all up, and that'll help my strings stay in tune, which means when I go to actually play the guitar and actually spend time playing it, I don't have to worry so much about the tuning and checking the tuning all the time. So it's much easier and better for a beginner if they can do this stretching process, because it just makes practicing and playing a lot more enjoyable, which is the ideal. We want them to enjoy it so they keep coming back for more. Hope this has been informative, and if you have any questions, just sing out and I'll try and answer them. Thanks. Bye.